Wait, what? Is the active item that we start out with today, and because it's National Jelly Bean Day, we are celebrating that by having all of the bean items, so that's a pretty good proposition. Even though it was Earth Day yesterday, I think that would have been a bit more appropriate. I'm not really sure with which items we would start, something like Tiny Planet maybe, but I definitely think National Jelly Bean Day goes hand in hand more with Isaac, although we obviously... Earth Days has a little bit more of importance. Doesn't really matter. We're playing Isaac. We're not talking about Earth right now. So what can we expect from this daily? So we started out with 3 bean items, and we didn't have any treasure rooms, and I sadly realized that a bit too late. So it does show to be a pretty difficult run, especially with Maggie. She doesn't have any special stats. She might have a little bit more HP, so you really need to go for those double deals. But if the game is cruel and can't tell you like this run was, then you really don't have a lot of chance in doing anything. So with the bean items that we have, of course, we can use them quite offensively, at least the active item, the wait what. It's really good because not only is it rechargeable, we also have 9 volt, which means we can use it more often. And besides that, it does deal damage with the shockwaves that go around you. Maybe what's most important here is that it has an additional tool as a utility, and essentially it serves as infinite amount of bombs, and you can essentially use it in every single room to try to find that secret room and second secret room. Sadly, I had to give it up here to pick up the Forget Me Now. I really wish I wouldn't, because I think I try to stay in teams with the daily as they usually go, and it seems like such a perfect item. It's also such a utility strong item, and I really hope that I could hold onto it for at least a little few more floors more, but sadly it turned out that it was just better to replace it as it was, because Forget Me Now is obviously going to bring me a lot more points in the long run. The next item we had is Linger Bean and Black Bean, and Black Bean is just a classic. Whenever you get hit, you unleash the Poison Cloud that just poisons and damages everyone around you, and Linger Bean is a new item, which you tend to notice more whenever you have a weak run and when you have a strong run. It's really one of those items that requires some setup and thought on how you're actually gonna use it, and essentially whenever you shoot at enemies, there's a chance that you're gonna spawn a cloud on your position, and you can then move that cloud around by shooting it, and whenever an enemy comes into contact with it, it actually deals damage. Surprisingly, it actually does deal quite a significant bit of damage, and if you can get it just right and you can make enemies walk into it, it does prove to be quite effective in a lot of situations. But that's why I say whenever you have a weak run, you tend to worry about more, because it's really your only source of damage in this case, whereas if you have a strong run, you don't really have to worry about it at all, and it's just there as yet another passive damage modifier, which might have an effect sometimes, but really not most other times. So how did this run look like up until this point? And it turned poorly. We had enough HP. Sadly, that was really the only thing that we had going for us. I didn't realize that there were no treasure rooms, so I tried to explore this entirety of the floor, and basically I was searching for the treasure rooms. Otherwise, I would have definitely left the floor and I would have gone on, but I just didn't feel like I can leave 2 treasure rooms behind, because that means I'm going to essentially be so much weaker than the people who did find them, and those 2 items might have been really important. Of course, as I was nearing towards the end, I was just thinking, are there even treasure rooms? And of course, as soon as I entered in my last room, I realized the mistake that I've made. I was kind of perturbed by this, but not too affected. I still felt good, because I knew it was a weak run. If somebody did a full exploration bonus, they're probably not gonna catch boss rush as well, and with the position I was in, I really didn't think I'm gonna be strong enough. Basically, I had no DPS upgrades. The only thing I did had as a helper was the what's it called? The Body in a Box, I think it's Friend in a Box, something like that. Essentially the familiar that shoots with you. And thankfully in this particular floor it did turn out to be quite good, because it had the Jacob's Ladder stat effect. But looking back at it, I definitely think I made a very big error there, and what I should have done is, as soon as I realized that when I explored the entirety of the floor, that's my bad, of course, but what I could have done better is I should have realized that we are on an XL floor, and because there are no treasure rooms, and because I was already slow enough, there really isn't gonna be much chance to actually get to boss rush, or probably to harsh, just because of how the rune looked like. Unless we really got a one super powerful item, we weren't gonna make it. So I should have just used the Forget Me Now in that situation, even though that would probably mean that we would definitely miss both boss rush and harsh, just because we would have 2 additional floors to explore. We would also get so many better items as a reward out of that. So what you might imagine would happen, because when you're on an XL floor and you explore the entirety of the floor and use it again, you go back to the first floor. So in that case, we had the 3rd and the 4th floor in full. I would use the Forget Me Now, I would go back to the 3rd floor, and that would allow me to essentially get another boss item. I would also get another boss item from the 4th floor, and essentially it would just give me 2 more chances of getting a deal with the devil. And not just a deal with the devil, obviously, we would also get another shop, which without treasure rooms are pretty damn important, and they can have some of the items that we really need to break the game. So it was a mistake all around. I definitely think I should have gone for that, and especially with Mama Mega and how important it is in this dailies, having 2 additional shops just increases the chance of you finding that Mama Mega, and then you can use it to actually break the game even further. And of course you don't have to worry about boss rush in that case. So that was definitely a bad on my part, just due to how I was conditioned to play the game and how I just learned, so to say, that I try to make it as fast as possible in order to get to those rushes, but then I neglect to realize that maybe using the Forget Me Now earlier is a better proposition than it is using it later. Of course, now you might be thinking, sure, but now obviously you're gonna save it for Shoal. And I was debating if that's a good idea or not, but I definitely think that from this point onwards, it's best to use it on Womb 1, because if you look at this respective ratio of the things that you're gonna get out of a floor, if you use it on the Mount floor, you're just gonna get another Polaroid and the negative, which is not that good, and then Womb 2, you just miss a boss item. So it just makes sense to use it on Womb 1, because not only is the floor relatively big, at least bigger than the depths too, but you also get a chance of getting another devil deal and also get another boss item. So I thought that was going to be the best way to do it, just because of how weak this run was. I really felt like I had to do everything in my power to get it as strong as possible. But also I did something else which was maybe a bit silly and a bit crazy in some regard, and I just decided I'm going to explore everything. I'll try to find every secret room, every second secret room, obviously with how many bombs I have. I'm not really sure that's going to allow me to do exactly that, but I still did try to actually get through everything and just explore the entire of what I could explore in hopes of getting really something good out of a maybe random chest with maybe someone has skipped just because they were trying to get the boss rush really fast. And it sadly didn't turn out to be this way. I think I didn't even get that many consumables. I couldn't even manage to get 2 cents from exploring the entirety of the previous and this floor, which is just a shame. And I think it's just one of those dailies which is, I won't say curated, but it's definitely a really hard and a really difficult one. So if you have the chance to try it out, I would definitely recommend. And if you did play the daily, I'm really interested as to how well you did. Maybe there was a scene, maybe if I took that first book of Sin for the devil deal, I would have gotten something really good on my next devil deal where I had my angel deal, and obviously that could have changed the whole tone of the run, but I'm not really sure how important that was. The mistake I made there was definitely that because I thought I had Linger Bin, I could use that in order to unleash the angel statues, and because I thought there were treasure rooms, I thought I was in a better position than I originally thought. And because Book of Sin wasn't that good of an item, because I already had an active item, I decided not to take it. Obviously, in most cases, I would take the Book of Sin because it's just a better item than Wait What that we had, but just for keeping in the spirit of the daily, I decided to go that way, and sadly it did turn out to be a mistake to some regard. I think that some people found Mega Blast, and maybe that was in that exact devil deal where I got an angel deal instead, and if that was the reason, I really hate myself. It was, yeah, but you really can't. You can't see this coming, and it's just something that's just due to the nature of the game and the variance. And sometimes I'm gonna get lucky, sometimes someone else is gonna get lucky, and that's really all we can do about it. I'm really trying to stay off just talking about a game because really nothing interesting is happening. It's one of those runs where it just takes forever to kill every enemy, and the only saving grace here was that we got +2 damage by using the black rune on both the Polaroid and the negative. So not maybe some people realize that, but it's best to use the black rune on active items, because with the Void, what you can do with the active items, obviously you can't use them because, I mean, you can't suck them up, or you can suck them up, but you don't get stats out of it, but what you get are just their active items in the Void, whenever you use the Void, of course. But with the Black Rune, you also get the stats for using up active items, and that's usually really good, because you already have a good active item, and most often or not, you don't want to replace it, and you don't want to really leave items behind, and then you just use it. But in that case, sadly, I didn't manage to make it work. I thought what I could do if I got some additional senses, buy the smelter from the shop and then smelt a few of the trinkets that I had lying around. I could have gone away with that, I would have them as passive effects, and then what I could have done is just use the Void and maybe get a damage up. Sadly, that didn't happen. I couldn't get those last 2 cents like I said before, and what I ended up doing is just using the Black Rune on both the Polaroid and the negative, and then thankfully that gave me +2 damage, and I was just in a better position from this point on, and thanks to Dark Matter as well, I was also able to get some more damage. So we're not on 3.5 damage anymore, so not on the full damage. We have almost twice that amount, which is still very tedious and very annoying, but at least we kill enemies somewhat quickly now. It's still annoying if there's a lot of enemies in the room, because you really need some other form of shots to actually deal with them, but as it turns out that it does work, and I do tend to enjoy these dailies where you really struggle a lot, because I think it does turn out the best in the player. You really have to show that you know what you're doing, you have to position well, you know that you have to know the enemy's attacks and patterns, and you know how to have to dodge them if you really want to get out of this whole ordeal unscathed. And I really do feel like these dailies do show that. But obviously I know that some people just found a good item early on because maybe I missed something, and they don't have to go through this, so maybe it's a bit unfair in that case. And it's just one of those dailies where I feel like I try really hard. I really did put all my focus and attention on it, especially past the Womb 1, to try to get hit as least times as possible, because I thought this is a hard daily. If I just try to play well, I'm bound to rank well in the end, and I did somewhat. I ranked in the top 100, which is obviously not bad, but I would have much preferred to be higher up. But obviously I think a lot of the people which are higher up either played better than me, or just found an item or something that helped them get a higher score, and that's obviously very fair. We're nearing the end here, and you can see that I'm kind of running out of ideas of what to say just because in the direction where I'm going with this commentary, but we only have Shoal remaining, and I really debated if there was gonna be a sacrifice room, am I gonna take it? Obviously, I'm a man of my word. I said I'm gonna explore everything that I possibly can, so I probably would have if I had enough health to justify it, of course, but thankfully it didn't show up, and it just saved me this pain of playing this daily. I remember some dailies are super annoying because you think you're at the end, maybe they last for a very long time. You end up and there's just maybe a sacrifice room, you play it, and there's a 5 dice room and you play that, and then maybe you gotta forget me now and you're just like, come on, just finish the run already because I can't handle this anymore. And I think that there's always a point that we come to where we just feel like we can't handle Isaac anymore. And when you play a daily where you're relatively weak for an hour on end and you really try your best to not get hit and dodge and really try to focus all your mental energy into just doing your best, it does tend to take a toll, and especially in these later rooms, which tend to be much harder if you don't have a really strong run. It just really shows just how perseverant you have to be in order to get through some of these difficult rooms later on. So it was an interesting experience, to say the least, and I really hope I don't have to repeat it anytime soon, although I do enjoy whenever they do show up. Like I said before, I think it's fun just to challenge yourself, because it's not like you're weak enough that you can't handle the enemies, because we still have some things going on for us, but at the same time you are weak enough that it's just annoying and very hard to play as. To just kind of unleash a bit of anger in the end, I decided to play the Devil Beggars. I just tried to get a stronger run. I didn't pick up Contract from Below because obviously there's no point in picking it up now, it's a bit too late, so I definitely should have done that before, but then again I was afraid that I might get hit and then end up losing my life. Thankfully I didn't, and I did manage to finish the run in a really odd spot. So 116, this is always the spot. There's always a limit as to when you know that you're gonna rise in ranks, and there's always a limit to when you're gonna start falling in ranks. There's like an equilibrium point. So if you're like above a 50, you know that your relative score is gonna improve, and if you're below like 300, you know that your score is gonna decrease because more people are gonna rank better than rank worse, or at least relatively to how many people have played the daily. So this is one of those where I'm not sure if it's gonna get better or worse. I do tend to think it's gonna get better in some regard, because it was a hard daily, but then again a lot of people who play later in the day tend to check up on how to beat the daily because it's hard. The daily people have to do achievements and challenges, and because of that they check up, and then of course you never know how many people might find something like a Mega Blast in one of the devil deals and just have a really good run out of that. And let's see what happens. I'm really interested, and if you play the daily yourself, again, I'm really interested in seeing how your run went. It's one of those things which I really enjoy, just debating and thinking, especially on difficult dailies, because if there's something that I missed, I would really like to know, or maybe there's a mistake I made. I think that's one of those things that really helps you improve. Whenever you have a bad daily, or at least a weak daily, it's a good idea to go over those mistakes and then fix them later so you can rank better. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.